Hey guys, what's going on? This is Kyle at ProjectionHub. I am back with another video today, and we're going to do something a little bit different. So in the past, or something I do semi-regularly, is I will collect a few questions that are asked to us, whether that be through YouTube comments or social DMs or emails or whatever it is. And then I answer a few of those on screen and try to give some context. And so today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different, and that is I'm going to take a few summarized scenario characteristics of some real clients that we've spoken with or people that we've just given some guidance to. And I'm going to try and give some quick advice as to maybe what lender they should go talk to. So this video is geared more towards someone who's either, starting, buying, or growing a business, and they're exploring SBA as an option. And maybe they have no idea where to go to apply. So I'm going to try to give some recommendations, some very quick recommendations on very little amount of data on some places where they could start, and then give some tips along the way. So that's going to be today's video. I should mention at ProjectionHub, we help people create financial projections, business plans, and help people find and secure SBA loans. So I lead our business plan writing services there, and a lot of my videos are geared towards business plan writing for SBA loans. So today's slightly different, but still very similar. So if at any point you have any questions, feel free to drop a comment down below. You're also welcome to reach out to us at support@projectionhub.com. And the tools I'm going to be using today are totally free and accessible for you to be able to use. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into this. So I've got pulled up here our free SBA lender finder tool. So the data that is being used in this is publicly available SBA data that is published about all of the SBA loans that are made. So all of the participating lenders in the banks, particularly in the 7A program, which is the most common loan program. It's all data from the last 5 years of those loans made from different lenders and amounts and all that stuff, and put into this tool. So you can get access to this for free. It's linked down in the description below. And we're just going to go through a couple of scenarios here. And if I have to hop off of this tool to show some other places you can look, I will do that. So we're going to try to go through 4 or 5 scenarios here in this video. So the first one, location is in Oregon. I've already got some of it pre-filled out here because I was just testing it there to make sure we were good to go. Located in Oregon, specialized manufacturing business. It's an expansion, so it's already been operating locally for 4 years, and they secured an additional contract. So one quick disclaimer on this, right? There's obviously details to each of these scenarios that would change whether or not the lender is going to be a good fit for them. Might be, I don't know, a type of, a subset of expansion. So maybe a lender likes doing expansions, but this particular form of expansion maybe isn't something they're excited about. There's all kinds of nuances in here that we're obviously not going to cover today. So just keep that in mind. So an expansion, they think they're going to need 1.2 million. Looks like they're going to be leasing a second warehouse, not purchasing it. Owner's credit score is 740. So I went ahead in here and I set Oregon, I set manufacturing as the industry. I set the business age to 2 years or more, and we're just going to go ahead and go with that. So if I, I'll just show you as an example. When you change a thing, it's going to automatically refresh the data. So I had already had it set. That's why you didn't see it do its thing. So we can look and see in the last, from January 2019 to September 2025, that's about as recent of SBA data we can grab. I think maybe it's trailing 6 months or maybe, a quarter or 2 quarters. So we can see the top 10 lenders who match that criteria. So they made SBA loans to established manufacturing businesses in the state of Oregon, and this is our top 10. So a couple of things jump out to me. Obviously in the top 2, so Columbia Bank has made by far the most, but their average loan amount is pretty small. So that maybe indicates to me that they're working on smaller manufacturing deal sizes, whereas KeyBank has done the second most amount, and their average amount is up near $1 million, right? So if I was this individual looking for a $1.2 million loan, I might be inclined to have a conversation with KeyBank first because, they're kind of been in that wheelhouse. So that's a very quick example about how we can use this tool. Again, they're don't take this video if you're sitting out there and you're like, oh, I'm going to go grab the tool, and then you fill it out and you're like, oh, perfect, I know exactly who the right lender is for me. That's an awesome place to start. But just obviously you still need to meet all the criteria, the personal criteria, there's just so many nuances to the deal. So if you're sitting out there and you want to use this tool, feel free to go use it. If you would like a much deeper analysis of your situation, like all those other details we're not talking about right now, like maybe you had I won't go into that, but just complexities to the deal and you're just curious if that will impact your approval decision, you're welcome to reach out. We'd be happy to give you some pointers on that. So the first one, that was pretty smooth, right? Those things matched well. We see some pretty obvious things. You didn't see this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to clear out all these filters. And obviously what you're going to see, the top lenders change significantly. So I don't know if I see even a single one of our top lenders is now on the board, right? But also these top lenders weren't on the board on the other one we made. So you can see how that's going to change. And as oftentimes why a recommendation we make to say, it's probably good to always have a conversation with your home bank or the place you have the best lending relationship, but have realistic expectations because your type of loan request may not be the type of loan request that lender specializes in or is comfortable with or has, room in their portfolio for. So just keep that in mind. Also, that being said, Chase Bank is the biggest bank in the world, and they are on here because they have such a massive footprint. But the reason they're not the biggest is because they're probably pretty strict on the type of loans that they're making. So just keep that in mind. Just because maybe if you bank, it might be smart to bank personally with some of the biggest banks in the country, in the world. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be the most active SBA lenders, just from a risk profile. Okay, so scenario 2, we have a mobile pet spa. State is in Florida. Let's go ahead and set that. It's going to be a startup. And this is going to be a good example of, so we'll do pet care. It says except veterinary. So this is all pet, not including veterinary. This is using the IRS category data. So you got to pick an industry. They may not have every single unique instance. And then startup, we're going to do, let's do both new business or 2 years or less and startup, right? So we'll just cast a little bit bigger of a bucket there between both of those. So 2 years or less is technically a startup tag for SBA, but obviously it's a little bit of a difference. And I didn't mention they're looking for $40,000 credit score of 670. And it's a pet groomer who has worked at a pet store before or a pet groomer before, and they're kind of going out to start their own thing. So we can see the board here and how that changed. Huntington Bank is one of the biggest, most prolific, popular SBA lenders in the country. So if they're showing up at the top of the list, probably always a safe bet to have a conversation with them first. So that's pretty exciting. Something I will mention here while we're looking at this, because the loan amount is $40,000 and they're not going to show up in this tool, I would strongly encourage this applicant, and I probably did, to check out an SBA microloan. So SBA microloans it's a special SBA program of loans up to $50,000, and they're not 7A loans because they're not SBA guaranteed. And I won't go into detail on that today, but for that reason, they're not showing up in that portal. Because banks aren't the ones providing these. A lot of times they're nonprofits. So if we go over to Florida, typically you need to be declined at a bank in order to be able to work with these lenders. But you can see there's 4 SBA microlenders. Might be worth checking out. You can see their territories they cover. So those would be worth working out as well. There's also organizations called CDFIs. Microlenders can be CDFIs. It's just another certification, stands for Community Development Financial Institution. They've got some different pots of money that are on the smaller side, right? So we're talking $50,000, $100,000, $150,000. So anytime a loan amount is down in that range, I recommend checking out those options too, because those organizations have perks like free technical assistance and support and different things like that. Okay, moving on to number 3. We have a trucking buyout here, trucking acquisition. So let's go Illinois. We're going to do, let's see what it's titled under. Got a lot of options here. We will do, they're doing last mile delivery. So let's do trucking long distance. And then we're going to do acquisition, which is going to be a change of ownership. Okay, so we don't have a ton of options here. I wonder if that's mainly because of the industry I chose. So maybe let's choose a few more and see how the board changes. So just not a ton of deals being done. And I guess granted, that's because it's an acquisition. So when you start to really zoom in the lens of a type of business in a state and a type and an acquisition, there's just not a ton of them probably happening. But this gives you some idea of some that have been done. I didn't even say the acquisition amount. 3.5 million is what they were looking for. Credit score is 810, so strong personal buyer. But this will give us an idea of the size of the deals. So, right, both Byline, Village Bank, and First Internet Bank of Indiana all have done a deal like that semi-recently. So probably worth a conversation there, which is cool. All right, let's move on to the fourth one here. We're going over to Colorado. We're going to do food. It says food and, oh, it's a brewery. Breweries. And startup. So we're going to do new business startup. We'll see if anyone, okay, so we've got a handful or several lenders who've all done one. So, and the loan amount, $150,000. There's two partners, both have solid credit around 700. So this would be another use case where I would probably recommend, I mean, you could have your first conversation here, take your pick on one that sounds familiar with you if you have a reason. This Dream Spring right here is actually kind of one of those alternative lenders I was talking about. They're a community advantage lender, which is a special type of 7A loan that's down in the $250,000 or less range. But this is another dollar amount where startup, this type of industry, I would go looking for a CDFI. So, let's use this tool to give it an example. I'm trying to think of too many things at once. So we're going to do organization type. Let's go to loan fund, and we're going to go Colorado. We're going to filter that and see what we get here. A couple of things you're going to notice. Not all the lenders say it says where they're headquartered. So if it shows up like Axion, that means they lend across many states, but they're headquartered in California. So that's why they show up. So you may consider looking for a local headquartered one, just because I'm not saying you're going to get a better experience, but they're probably more incentivized to work with you in your home state. But you can look on these, go check out their websites. You can get a little summary right there. But even if we just hop over to the Colorado Enterprise Loan Fund, we can see what kind of loan programs they have. So here you go. Small business loans to start or grow your business, 10,000 to $1 million, 3 to 10 years. Right, so that's an example of how you could go about doing that process. The only reason I say, if we're talking a couple $100,000 or less, 7A loans that are typically facilitated by banks are probably not your best bet. This is not me throwing shade at banks. It's just because of the way banks make money and the way they're typically working through this. They don't want to spend a lot of time on what they consider to be small deals, and a small deal to them is going to be, a few $100,000. So I would strongly encourage going to check out a CDFI, a community advantage lender, a microlender in your state to see what kind of resources and programming they offer for you. So that's what I would recommend in this. And let's see if we can squeeze in one more here. Location, Arizona. We're going to do, looks like it's HVAC or home services. I know that there's going to be one in here. It's just about finding the right let's do plumbing, heating, and air conditioning. And then let's go over, it's an expansion. So existing 2 or more years, looking for $600,000, credit score 660. So it's that's about at the bottom of where a 7A lender is going to be interested. So that's something to keep in mind. But here we can see, so they said 600,000 what they're looking for. Bayfirst has done several of these, 140,000. So Live Oak Banking is closest dollar wise. You got MidFirst Bank down here has done some big ones. Wells Fargo even has been pretty active. Live Oak Banking is another one of those very prolific SBA lenders, kind of like Huntington I was talking about. So there's some really good options on this list, honestly. So I would say go with, if you have a relationship with one of these banks, start there. If you don't, who's close by and has a branch you could walk into and have a conversation with a lender. If there's not one that's really close by, you can kind of take your pick, but I would probably recommend someone like Live Oak because, again, that dollar amount is up closer to where they're looking for. And they've got some history, and they're really a prolific SBA lender. So there you have it. If you want to play around with this tool for your kind of situation, you can just go to the link down in the description below. You can go to our website, under SBA, and it's the free SBA Lender Finder tool. I'll drop the links to these other lists, but even if you just click CDFI or Google CDFI Locator, you'll find this tool. And then SBA Microlenders can get you to this list on this link on the SBA website. So hopefully this was helpful. Again, if you want a little bit deeper analysis on your specific scenario beyond like these 4 data points that I covered today, you can contact us at support@projectionhub.com. You can also fill out our free SBA expert review, which is essentially just like a little form you're going to fill out information about your situation, and we'll be able to give you much more detailed feedback on like if we think you got decent odds of getting approved from an SBA lender, what lender you should check out, what materials you need to prepare, all that kinds of stuff. So yeah, hopefully this video was helpful. Went a little bit longer than I was hoping to do. So if you liked it, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks.